I reclaimed my life after my wife's betrayal. A shocking story of infidelity, cold clarity, and rising stronger when she said, "Get over it today now." The phone screen lit up the dark bedroom as we were getting ready for bed. She had left it on my nightstand while she was in the shower. I never checked her phone. Trust was something I valued in our 5 years of marriage, but the preview of that message made my heart stop. "I miss you already. Last night was amazing." I wish I could say I put the phone down and waited to discuss it with her, but something in my gut told me this wasn't just a misunderstanding. 3 swipes later, I was staring at weeks of messages, photos, and detailed plans of their meetups while I was working late. When she came out of the bathroom wrapped in her towel, hair still wet, she must have seen it on my face. She froze. The phone was in my hand. "Who is he?" My voice was surprisingly calm, though I felt like I was falling through the floor. "It's not what you think," she said automatically, but her eyes gave her away. They always did when she was lying. "I can read you. I'm not an idiot." I scrolled through more messages as she lunged for the phone. That's when the fight really started. She cycled through denial, then anger, then something worse, minimizing what she had done. "It was just physical. It didn't mean anything," she shouted, her face red and tears streaming down her cheeks. "It was just once." I laughed, holding up her phone. "Once? There are messages here from 3 different dates. The other times were just talking and kissing. We only slept together once," she insisted, as if that somehow made it better. I went downstairs and sat on the couch, trying to process what was happening to my life. She followed me down, now dressed, still arguing, still defending herself. "Everyone makes mistakes. Are you really going to throw away 5 years of marriage over one stupid mistake?" Her voice cracked as she spoke. "It's over between us. I ended it last week. I chose you." "How noble of you," I said quietly. That's when she said the words that would change everything. "It was just once. Get over it already. Get over it." As if my pain was an inconvenience to her. As if discovering that the person I trusted most had betrayed that trust was something I should just shake off like a bad day at work. "Get over it," I repeated slowly, looking up at her. Something shifted inside me in that moment. The shock was wearing off, and in its place was a cold clarity I'd never felt before. "Okay," I said finally. "Okay?" She looked confused, expecting more fight. "Yeah, you're right. I need to get over it." I stood up and walked past her toward her home office. "Where are you going?" she called after me, sounding uncertain. "To start getting over it," I replied without looking back. I spent the night researching divorce attorneys while she cried herself to sleep in our bedroom. By morning, I had a plan. I would show her exactly what getting over it meant, but not in the way she expected. She wanted me to forget and move on. Fine. I would move on completely, from her. As the sun rose, I made a promise to myself. This wouldn't be a story of bitter revenge or dramatic confrontations. This would be about quietly rebuilding my life while she watched everything we had built together slip through her fingers, all because it was just once. The next morning, I surprised her. I made coffee, set out breakfast, and acted normal. Not happy, not angry, just calm. The confusion on her face was evident as she cautiously sat down at the kitchen table. "Did you sleep okay?" I asked, knowing full well she hadn't. Her puffy eyes and the makeup hastily applied to cover them told me everything. "Not really," she admitted, watching me carefully. Are we going to talk about last night?" "I think we said everything that needed to be said," I replied, sipping my coffee. "You told me to get over it, and that's exactly what I'm doing." She looked relieved, but also suspicious. She probably expected me to explode, to scream, to beg for details or explanations. That's what the old me would have done. But the old me died last night when I read those messages. "That's good," she said tentatively, reaching for my hand across the table. I let her take it, but didn't squeeze back. Physical contact without connection. I figured she should be familiar with that concept by now. After breakfast, I excused myself to make some calls for work. In reality, I was speaking with a financial advisor about separating our accounts and protecting my assets. By lunchtime, I had appointments scheduled with 3 different divorce attorneys for consultations later that week. Over the next few days, I maintained the same demeanor, polite, functional, but emotionally detached. At night, I claimed insomnia and slept in the guest bedroom just until I processed things. She didn't argue. She tried everything to restore our connection, cooked my favorite meals, suggested date nights, even attempted to initiate intimacy one evening. I declined with a simple, "I'm not there yet." What she didn't see was my methodical preparation. I opened a separate bank account and began transferring reasonable amounts of money. Nothing that would raise legal red flags, just enough to establish independence. I secured important documents and sentimental items at a friend's house. I started going to the gym again, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. 1 week after discovering her infidelity, I received a job offer I'd applied for months earlier, a promotion that would require relocation to another state. Perfect timing. I didn't tell her immediately, using the opportunity to get all my preparations in order first. 2 weeks in, she began to panic at my continued emotional distance. The tearful apologies increased in frequency. "Please tell me what I can do to fix this," she begged one evening. "There's nothing to fix," I said calmly. "I'm getting over it, just like you wanted. But not here. With me anymore," she whispered. "Not really," I shrugged. "That's part of getting over it." Her affair partner tried contacting her again around this time. I know because I saw his name flash on her phone when we were having dinner. She declined the call immediately, looking at me with panic in her eyes. "It's fine," I said, continuing to eat. "You're an adult. You can talk to whoever you want." "I don't want to talk to him," she insisted. "It's completely over." I nodded and changed the subject. Her desperation was growing palpable as she realized that what she was losing wasn't just my trust, but me entirely. 3 weeks after that fateful night, I was ready for the next phase of getting over it. I had secured a new apartment in my future city, finalized the details of my new position, and consulted with a divorce attorney who had drafted initial paperwork. That evening, I came home with takeout from her favorite restaurant, a small kindness that made her eyes light up with hope. Perhaps she thought this was the beginning of reconciliation. She couldn't have been more wrong. As we ate, I maintained pleasant conversation. Only after dinner, as we sat with our wine glasses, did I finally look her in the eyes and say, "I need to talk to you about something important." The hopeful smile that had been growing on her face all evening froze in place. "I've been offered a promotion," I said. "I've decided to take it." The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. "A promotion? Where? When?" Her voice trembled slightly as she gripped her wine glass tighter. "Seattle. It's a significant step up. Better pay, better title, better future."
I kept my tone matter-of-fact, as if discussing a minor schedule change rather than a life-altering decision.
"But that's across the country," she whispered, setting down her glass before she dropped it. "When would we move? I need to look for a new job and the house." I interrupted her gently. "I'll be moving in 3 weeks. I've already found an apartment." The emphasis on "I" wasn't lost on her. Her eyes widened as understanding dawned. "What do you mean, you? We're married. If you're moving, we're moving together." Panic edged into her voice. "I don't think that would be best," I replied calmly. "I'm taking this opportunity to make a fresh start. Alone. This is because of what happened, isn't it?" Her voice rose. "You said you were getting over it." "I'm getting over it. This is what that looks like." I maintained eye contact, refusing to flinch as tears welled in her eyes. "By running away? By abandoning our marriage?" She was nearly shouting now. "No, by choosing myself for once, by recognizing when something is broken beyond repair." She collapsed back into her chair, silent tears streaming down her face. "One mistake. One time. And you're throwing everything away." "That's interesting," I said, feeling a flicker of the anger I'd been suppressing. "When you were the one who broke our vows, it was just once, get over it. But when I choose to move on with my life, I'm throwing everything away. Funny how that works." The next few days were a storm of emotions, her emotions to be precise. Mine remained carefully controlled, a dam holding back a flood I couldn't afford to release yet. She cycled through all the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression. She promised changes, therapy, complete transparency. When none of that moved me, she called my parents, her parents, our friends, anyone she thought might convince me to stay. I remained steadfast. At work, I wrapped up projects and trained my replacement. At home, I began methodically packing my personal belongings. Each box sealed was another step toward my new life. One night, about a week after my announcement, I came home to find her sitting on our bed surrounded by photo albums and mementos from our relationship. "Remember this?" she asked softly, holding up a photo from our honeymoon. "You said it was the happiest day of your life." "It was," I acknowledged, sitting on the edge of the bed. "We had some good times. We still could," she whispered, moving closer. "Please, just give us another chance. I'll do anything." For a brief moment, I felt my resolve waver. The familiar scent of her perfume, the warmth of her nearness, they triggered memories of happier times before the betrayal. But then I remembered the messages on her phone, the casual dismissal of my pain, and the steel return to my spine. "I've made my decision," I said, standing up. "I think it's best if we start discussing the practical details of separation now." The look of devastation on her face almost broke me. Almost. 2 weeks before my planned departure, she made one final desperate attempt. I came home to find her dressed up, the dining room transformed with candles and flowers, a gourmet meal waiting. She'd recreated our first date down to the music playing softly in the background. "Please," she said, her voice breaking, "just dinner. For old time's sake." I agreed, if only to avoid another emotional confrontation. Throughout the meal, she reminisced about our relationship, carefully avoiding mention of recent events. She was charming, attentive, the woman I'd fallen in love with years ago. After dinner, as we sat with dessert untouched between us, she reached for my hand. "I know you don't believe me," she said, her eyes earnest, "but I love you more than anything. What happened was the biggest mistake of my life, and I'll regret it forever. But please don't punish us both for the rest of our lives because of it." I looked at our intertwined fingers, then back at her face. "This isn't punishment," I said quietly. "This is self-preservation." She dropped my hand as if burned. "So that's it? You're really leaving?" I nodded. "My flight is booked for next Saturday. I'll have the divorce papers ready before then." She pushed back from the table abruptly, knocking over her wine glass. Red liquid spread across the white tablecloth like blood. "You know what?" she said, suddenly angry again. "Fine, leave. But don't pretend this is about getting over it. This is about making me suffer." I stood up calmly, placing my napkin on the table. "No, it's about finally putting myself first. Good night." The final week before my departure arrived with a strange sense of calm. Most of my possessions were already packed or shipped to my new apartment in Seattle. What remained were just the essentials and a few items still under negotiation in our informal property division. She had stopped crying by then. The desperate pleas gave way to a cold resignation that somehow felt worse than her tears. She moved around our increasingly empty house like a ghost, barely speaking, barely eating. Despite everything, I found myself worried about her. "Have you thought about what you'll do after I leave?" I asked one evening as we sat in the living room, the TV on but neither of us watching it. She looked at me with hollow eyes. "Does it matter to you?" "Of course it matters," I said, surprised by the genuine concern in my voice. "I don't hate you. I just can't be married to you anymore." She laughed bitterly. Such compassion. "Thank you." We lapsed back into silence for several minutes before she spoke again. "Your lawyer called today about the house." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I told him I don't want it. I confirmed you can buy out my share if you want to stay, or we can sell it and split the proceeds. Your choice." "So generous," she murmured. "You've got everything figured out, don't you? New job, new apartment, new life. All planned out perfectly while I'm left picking up the pieces." I sighed. "You're not a victim here." "No." She turned to face me fully then. "Then what am I? Because from where I'm sitting, one mistake is costing me everything I care about." "Actions have consequences," I said simply. "You made a choice. Now I'm making mine." 3 days before my scheduled departure, her sister arrived to stay with her. I was relieved. I'd been worried about leaving her alone in the emotional state she was in. Her sister regarded me with undisguised hostility, but I couldn't blame her. She'd only heard one side of the story. "You're really going through with this?" she asked me privately when her sister was showering. "You're not even going to try counseling or anything?" "There's nothing to salvage," I replied. "Trust, once broken that way, doesn't come back." She shook her head in disgust. "Men, you're all the same. She made one mistake." "Please don't," I interrupted. "I've heard that line enough times now." The day before my flight, I was finishing some last-minute packing when there was a knock at her bedroom door. She stood there, composed, but with red-rimmed eyes. "Can we talk one last time?" I nodded, setting aside the suitcase I'd been organizing. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I found these this morning." She held out a small velvet box. Inside were the earrings I'd given her for our first anniversary. "You should keep them," I said. "I don't want reminders." She set the box on the nightstand. "Actually, that's not why I came in. I wanted to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." I waited, curious despite myself. "Did you ever really love me?" Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. The question caught me off guard. Of course I did. With everything I had. Then how can you walk away so easily? Her eyes searched mine. How can you be so cold, so calculated about all this? It's like I'm watching a stranger systematically dismantle our life. I considered my answer carefully. I'm not walking away easily. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. But staying would be worse. Why? She pressed. Because your pride can't take it? Because I would never trust you again, I said quietly. Every late night at work, every text message, every time you stepped out of the room to take a call, I would wonder. That's no way to live, for either of us. She was silent for a long moment. I've been thinking about what you said about consequences. You're right. I made a terrible choice, and now I'm facing the consequences. But this doesn't just punish me, it punishes you too. You're giving up the good parts of our marriage along with the bad. Maybe, I acknowledged. But that's my choice to make. She stood then, wiping away a stray tear. Your flight's at 10 tomorrow, right? I nodded. I won't be here. I'll stay at my sister's tonight. It's better that way. At the door, she paused and looked back. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not just for what I did, but for how I reacted when you found out. You deserved better than get over it. For the first time in weeks, I felt the steel around my heart crack slightly. Thank you for saying that. After she left, I sat alone in our bedroom for a long time, surrounded by the remnants of the life we'd built together. Despite my resolve, a wave of doubt washed over me. Was I doing the right thing? Was I throwing away something that could be salvaged? Then I remembered her words that first night. It was just once. Get over it. And I knew I was making the right choice. True love doesn't trivialize betrayal. True partnership doesn't demand that pain be swept under the rug for convenience. Tomorrow I would board that plane. Tomorrow I would truly start getting over it. I woke before dawn on my departure day, my body tense with anticipation. The house was silent, eerily so without her presence. I showered and dressed methodically, going through the motions like a man sleepwalking. My remaining luggage waited by the front door. In just a few hours I would leave this house, this city, this life behind. I made coffee and carried it to the back porch, watching the sun rise over the neighborhood we'd chosen together 4 years ago. So many memories in this place. The housewarming party where we danced in an empty living room, the garden we planted together, the Christmas mornings and summer barbecues. My phone buzzed with a text from my rideshare driver 20 minutes away. I went back inside to do one final sweep of the house, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. That's when I heard it, the sound of a key in the front door. She walked in, stopping short when she saw me standing in the hallway with my coffee mug. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept at all. Her hair was pulled back messily, her eyes puffy and red. I thought you were staying at your sister's, I said, surprised. I was. I came back. She shifted nervously. I couldn't let you leave like this. I sighed, glancing at my watch. My ride will be here soon. I know. This won't take long. She took a deep breath. I found something last night going through old boxes at my sister's. I want you to see it before you go. She pulled an envelope from her purse and handed it to me. Inside was a card, the anniversary card I'd given her 3 years ago. My handwriting filled the inside, promises of forever, declarations of unending love, dreams of growing old together. I need you to look me in the eye and tell me none of that was real, she said quietly. It was real, I admitted, every word. But that was before. She finished for me. I didn't contradict her. She moved closer, her eyes never leaving mine. I've been thinking about what you said about trust. You're right. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. But nearly impossible isn't the same as impossible. My phone buzzed again. The driver was 5 minutes away. I'm not asking you to stay, she continued quickly. I'm asking you not to finalize the divorce yet. Give us 6 months. If you still feel the same way then, I'll sign the papers without a fight. What would 6 months change? I asked, genuinely curious. It would give us time. Time for me to prove that what happened was truly an aberration, not who I am. Time for you to decide if what we had is worth fighting for. My driver was pulling into the driveway. Through the window, I could see him getting out to help with my bags. I have to go, I said, moving toward the door. She blocked my path, not touching me, but standing firmly in the way. Wait. There's something else. From her other pocket, she produced a folded document. I took it, skimming the contents quickly. It was a postnuptial agreement already signed by her. It stated that if she ever cheated again, she would forfeit all claims to our shared property and assets. I had my lawyer draw it up yesterday, she explained. It's my way of showing you how serious I am. I'm putting everything on the line. The doorbell rang. My driver was waiting. I need to answer that, I said, my voice strangely hoarse. She stepped aside but caught my arm gently as I passed. Just think about it. Please. I opened the door, gestured to the driver that I needed a minute, and turned back to her. Why now? I asked. Why this grand gesture the moment I'm walking out the door? You've had weeks to come up with something like this. Because I was stupid and selfish, she admitted. I kept thinking you'd change your mind, that you couldn't really leave. It took watching you pack your life into boxes to make me realize this was really happening. Sometimes we don't fight for what we have until we're about to lose it. There was truth in her words, but also manipulation. The timing was too convenient, too calculated to tug at my heartstrings when I was most vulnerable. I need to go, I said finally. My flight won't wait. Her face crumpled. So that's it? After everything? I didn't say that. I hesitated, looking at the postnuptial agreement still in my hand. I'll think about what you've said, about the 6 months, but I'm still getting on that plane today. A flicker of hope crossed her face. You will? I'm not promising anything, I warned. But I won't file the final papers immediately. She nodded, wiping away tears. That's all I'm asking for, a chance. The driver honked lightly, reminding me of his presence. I should go, I said awkwardly, gesturing to the door. She stepped forward suddenly and kissed my cheek. Have a safe flight. As the driver loaded my bags into the trunk, I looked back at our house one last time. She stood in the doorway watching me, a small, sad figure framed by the home we'd built together. I got into the car with a strange sense of uncertainty. For weeks my path had been clear, my resolve unshakable. Now, with Seattle just hours away, doubt crept in. Was I making a mistake, or was this exactly what getting over it required, the courage to walk away even when it hurt? As we pulled away from the curb, I didn't have the answer. I only knew that the choice, whatever it would be, had to be mine. No more letting her, or anyone else, dictate how I should feel or what I should accept. For the first time since that fateful night, I felt truly in control of my own destiny. Seattle greeted me with rain, a fitting welcome to my new beginning. My apartment was bare and impersonal, just furniture and boxes waiting to be unpacked. Standing in the empty living room, looking out at the unfamiliar skyline, I felt a mixture of liberation and profound loneliness. The first few weeks passed in a blur of orientation meetings, new faces, and sleepless nights. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office and volunteering for extra projects, anything to keep my mind occupied, to avoid thinking about who I'd left behind. She texted occasionally, simple messages at first, hoping I was settling in well, mentioning changes she was making at home, updates about mutual friends. I responded politely but briefly. Then came longer messages, reflections on our relationship, acknowledgments of her failures, descriptions of the therapy she'd started. To these, I often didn't respond at all, unsure what to say. 1 month into my new life, a package arrived. Inside was a journal, her journal, with a note asking me to read it when I felt ready. This is part of my therapy, she wrote. Complete honesty about what happened and why. You deserve to know everything. I put the journal on my bookshelf, unopened. I wasn't ready to revisit that pain, to have the images of her with someone else refreshed in my mind. 2 months in, I met someone, a colleague from another department, smart, funny, with no connection to my past life. We got coffee, then dinner. The conversation flowed easily, and for a few hours I forgot about everything else. At the end of the night, she kissed me, and I felt a spark of something I thought might be dead, possibility. But later, alone in my apartment, guilt crashed over me. Not because I betrayed my wife, our separation made that impossible, but because part of me still felt married, still felt bound to a promise I'd made years ago. I called my brother that night, seeking perspective from the one person who knew me better than anyone. You're allowed to move on, he told me after I'd explained everything. That's the whole point of separation, isn't it? To see if there's life after marriage. I guess, I admitted. But it feels wrong somehow. Because you still love her, he said simply. I started to deny it, then stopped. Maybe. But love isn't always enough, is it? No, he agreed. But it's not nothing either. 3 months into my self-imposed exile, I finally opened her journal. It was brutal reading, detailed accounts of her insecurities, the attention that had tempted her, the rationalizations she'd made. She held nothing back, including her shame and regret. The final entries focused on what she was learning in therapy about herself, about boundaries, about the damage she'd caused. The journal didn't make me forgive her, but it did help me understand. The betrayal hadn't come from nowhere. It had roots and problems we both ignored, communication we both neglected. 4 months in, I flew back for a business meeting. I hadn't told her I was coming, but something made me text her the night before I left. "I'll be in town tomorrow. Could we meet for coffee?" Her response came immediately. "Name the time and place." We met at a cafe downtown, neutral territory, away from the memories of our home. She looked different, thinner, with shorter hair, but somehow more present, more grounded than I remembered. "Thank you for suggesting this," she said after we had exchanged awkward greetings. "How's Seattle?" "Rainy," I said with a small smile. "But good. The job is challenging in the right ways. And are you happy?" Her eyes were steady on mine, genuine concern in them. "I'm getting there," I admitted. "What about you?" "I'm working on myself," she said. "Therapy has been eye-opening, painful but necessary." We talked for hours, carefully at first, then with increasing openness. She didn't beg me to come back. She didn't make promises about the future. She just shared her journey, listened to mine, and accepted the distance between us as the natural consequence of what had happened. As we were saying goodbye, she handed me an envelope. "The divorce papers," she explained. "Signed. It's been almost 5 months. You've honored your promise to think about it. Whatever you decide now, I'll respect it." I took the envelope, surprised. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," she said quietly. "This isn't a gift. It's a recognition of your right to choose your own path forward, without pressure from me." Back in Seattle, the signed divorce papers sat on my desk for days while I wrestled with my decision. The colleague I'd been seeing sensed my distraction and gently suggested we take a step back. "You have unfinished business," she said kindly. "Figure that out first." 6 months to the day after leaving, I made my decision. I booked a flight home, not for a visit, but to deliver my answer in person. She deserved that much. She opened the door, looking surprised to see me. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know. Can I come in?" The house looked different, furniture rearranged, new paint, her personal touch more evident without my things to balance it. I handed her an envelope of my own. She opened it with trembling hands, then looked up in confusion. "These are the same papers, but you haven't signed them." "No," I said. "I haven't." "What does that mean?" Hope and fear battled in her expression. "It means I'm not ready to end our marriage," I said carefully. "Not yet. But I'm not ready to come back either." "I don't understand." "I'm proposing a new arrangement. I keep my job in Seattle. You stay here, we date each other, start fresh, rebuild slowly, no promises beyond taking it one day at a time. Long distance?" She looked skeptical. "For now, I need my independence, my space to heal. But I also need to know if what we had can be salvaged." She considered this, then nodded slowly. "Okay, we try. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people seeing if there's still something worth fighting for." As I left that day to return to Seattle, I felt lighter than I had in months. The path ahead was uncertain, the outcome far from guaranteed, but for the first time since discovering her betrayal, I felt hope. Not for a return to what was, but for the possibility of something new, something stronger, built from the ashes of what we'd lost. Getting over it, I realized, didn't have to mean getting over her. Sometimes it meant getting over the hurt enough to see the person behind it. Flawed, human, but perhaps still worth loving.